Do you ever ask yourself, why am I having communication issues in my marriage? Maybe you want to have a better relationship, but the communication issues are what's causing you to feel a little bit disconnected. When you're experiencing disconnection through communication issues within your relationship, you can feel frustrated, hurt, sad, lonely, a little hopeless, and even be maybe thinking about divorce. Luckily, they don't have to be the problem. I've worked with hundreds of couples and I have seen the steps on to understand why you have communication problems and how to start to fix it. So you don't have to be disconnected from your partner. You can learn to reconnect, and in this video, I'm going to show you how. What's up, guys? I am Tyler Rich. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist here in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I run a group practice called Richer Life Counseling. I created this show called the Richer Marriage Show that's focused on teaching you the skills on how to have a healthier, stronger, better relationship. And this first series that I'm focusing on is an 8-part series on how to have a better relationship communication. So this is all about understanding what goes wrong in the communication process between you and your spouse. So to dive into why we have communication issues, it's really important to look at and think about two parts that are going on. This is built in the biology of the brain. Probably do another video about that a later time. But we experience multiple things when we have communication issues. One, we are having an emotional reaction. There's something going on deep down in our soul and our psyche, right? In the emotional parts of us, we're feeling something. It drives so much of what we do. So we have this emotional energy. And then we have what I like to call content. Content is the stuff, the story, the logic, the prefrontal cortex, everything, the talking. Everything in this video is content. It's not emotional. So we have these two parts of ourselves, this emotional pull and this drive for understanding and language and context that make up the content. And between these pushes and pulls, you and your partner miss each other all the time. And when you need an emotional response, you get a content-full logical response. Or when you need a logical response, it feels like you get an emotional response. This is where the communication breakdown starts. So to start to learn, the first step in having better relationship communication, you have to understand what's going on emotionally. So emotions are super complicated. There's many books on emotions. So to really simplify it down, there's a difference between something called primary emotions and secondary emotions. And I actually did a video on this that you can link to in the card. I'm also going to put in the description below. That goes into way in more detail about primary and secondary emotions and kind of the roles that they play. But what you need to know is primary emotions tend to be the emotions that are driving everything, while the secondary emotions are the ones that are reacting to the primary. I like to think of it as deeper emotions and surface emotions, right? So what we're really feeling deep down, what's really going on with us is that deep primary emotion. Maybe I'm feeling really, really scared. I'm scared that my partner isn't giving me the attention that I need. And it shows up in anger and frustration and annoyance because I ask for something and they don't do it, and then I find myself angry, right? The surface emotion protects the softer one, but it also pushes your partner away. So if I'm feeling kind of disconnected, lonely, sad, but I'm showing up as annoyed or anger, then the content that comes next is all going to come out through this annoyed and anger. So there's multiple emotional things going on for us. And a lot of the times, if you find yourself frustrated, frustrated, angry, irritated, annoyed, anxious, jealous, those are all great emotions that probably mean that's a surface emotion. Something else is going on. One of the questions I love to ask my clients all the time is, what is underneath that emotion? And when we can get to that deeper place, then we can start to figure out how to do something different. So content is this other piece, which I said a while ago, right? It is focused on the story we tell, the things that we need. It shows up in defensiveness or criticism or contempt. And all these things, these are the things that we have to talk about. Our content, what's really going on, our explanation, that has to come out. And the problem is when we are so caught up in our content, we don't always share what we're feeling emotionally. So one of the best things for us to do is start to recognize there's a difference between sharing an emotion and sharing content. And in this series, I'm going to spend the next few episodes kind of breaking down what content is and how it gets in the way. We're talking about Gottman's 4 horsemen of the relationship apocalypse, understanding criticism, contempt, defensiveness, stonewalling. And you can actually click to the next video I'll put in the description below about all of this. So what I'm saying with understanding that there's this emotional stuff going on and then there's this content, and we're getting lost in the content. We're sharing the content, we're maybe being a little critical, we're being maybe a little dismissive, I'm being super logical. I'm not really owning what I'm feeling and asking for my partner's needs to get met. That we're not having a communication breakdown really. What we're having is an emotional disconnection breakdown. I'm unable to connect to you and you're unable to connect to me emotionally. We're lost in the content. I always tell my couples, content's important. I don't want to discount like the logic, the story, the asking for things. That's all super important. But instead of spending 80% of the time like we do when we have communication problems, we need to spend 20% of our time there. We need to spend 80% of our time being in our emotions, knowing what we're feeling, what we need from those feelings. How do we lovingly share those feelings with our partner? And this series will talk all about it. I hope that you're finding this helpful so far. If you are, go on and like and subscribe and make sure you hit that little bell button so then that way you never miss one of the Richer Marriage shows that are going to be coming out so you can see this whole series so you can improve your communication style. You might be asking yourself, but I share my emotions all the time. That is probably absolutely true. You do share your emotions, right? You might be the more emotional one. You might be the one really wanting to connect and your partner is a little bit more shut off. And you're like, well, I share my emotions all the time, but my partner just doesn't hear me. I would say, and what I've seen with a lot of my clients is we do share our emotions, but I'm really guilty of this, and you might be too, which is I call it the emotional dump, where I take my emotion where I've said I feel really sad or I'm feeling lonely, and I wrap it in the story of why am I sad and why am I this, and I wrap so much story around trying to explain the sadness. I hand it to my partner. My partner has no clue what's going on. They're just like, where do I start with this? They don't even recognize that it's sadness. They logically get it, but they don't emotionally get it. So it requires a lot of vulnerability to be able to sit in the emotion and turn to your partner and say, I'm feeling really lonely right now. Feeling really overwhelmed. And that is something that you can learn to do to improve your communication style. So you might be saying, yeah, this all makes sense. Like, okay, I'm not really sharing my emotions the way I need to do. I'm caught up in the content. How do we shift that? It's really, really simple. We have to share our emotions first before we get into the content. We have to find ways to be more emotionally vulnerable. We have to find ways to lovingly share our emotional needs. And we also have to find ways to show up for our partner's emotional stuff when we're going on. So that brings me to the question of the day. Is it hard for you to share your emotion in a loving, soft way to your partner? And if it is hard, why is it so hard? Put it in the comments below. I would love to be able to read them and engage in a conversation with you. And hopefully, if you have specific questions, I can answer them in a future video. So to sum it up, why you have communication issues in your relationship is because you're spending too much time in your content and not enough time in your emotion. And that is a skill that you can learn. And how you can learn that is identify what barriers you have through your content, and then how to share your emotional needs and how to show up for your partner. That is the premise to this whole web series. So if you watch this video first, go on and click the other ones, and you'll see how to have healthier communication.